Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's me, War Rabbit, and today we're going to be going over some more tournament lists from this weekend. So over the weekend, it was kind of a little bit of a slow weekend outside of obviously the Tacoma Open, which is probably where most people were at that doing tournament. So yeah, other than that, we're not going to be looking at too many. We're still going to be looking at about 5 or so lists, but it's not going to be too many tournaments. So this weekend we also had part of the Tau community. You know, I got some egg on my face. Not really specifically me, but I disagreed with his take. And you know, humility's where it is. This is Tim Vass. He is also known as Morty and Glory on the internet. He is a decent, not even decent. He's a well above average player who is a fantastic guard player. And to prove a point, because he was joshing on basically the Tau subreddit, which I'm a part of, he proved to everybody that, you know, you can take that Tau is actually much better than we thought, which, you know, it's neither here nor there. But he went up against some pretty tough players. If you haven't seen his full 6-hour like breakdown, I'd recommend watching it. It's pretty good. I watched the whole thing. It's 6 hours, so he talks, you know, he's got a good cadence, but I put it on 2 times speed and you can kind of understand everything. But he did really well in this tournament for what he took. For the most part, just go over the list real quick. This was probably my biggest contention of the list. So he's bringing Montca Tau, which is, you know, pretty staple. It's obvious. But the thing is, he brought 40 strike teams. And while I agree that strike teams right now are probably better than breachers, I think him taking strike teams over Crute was probably a mistake. Strike teams are interesting because they have that -1 to hit on infantry, but like barely any armies right now are taking infantry. But the -1 to hit also applies in melee. When I say they're not taking infantry, they're not like Death Guard are taking their 3 Death Shrouds and then the rest are vehicles. Knights are knights. You're gonna be seeing some like Subterranean Tyranids assault lists that are pretty good. But and then obviously, so maybe you know, I was kind of wrong. The -1 to hit in melee is pretty good, especially in Tau. But you still got to shoot them, and most melee armies are keeping their melee threats behind a wall to jump out through the ruin and just charge you. And he was saying that the DS8 support turret is good because it's got indirect, and you can get that. It still hits on a 5, so it's still not amazing, but it works to get that spread the -1 to hit, which isn't too bad. And then he took an ethereal. Obviously, he's just got an ethereal. Probably puts him in a strike team. I personally, I wouldn't do that. I just put him in strategic reserve and then just let him generate command points the whole game. And then because he can generate command points off the board. Turn 3, drop him on your home objective. I was looking at some of the games, and I think he's got the Pathfinders, which I disagree with on taking railguns, but he did well. So I'm not saying railguns are bad. I just prefer ion rifles because realistically, when your Pathfinders shoot, they're only going to get like about 1 turn of shooting before they get cleaned up because they're 90-point idiots that are T3 with a 5-up, I believe. It's a 5-up and Fire Warrior's got the 4-up. They're just going to die, and because they are your main spotting units, they're going to target your Pathfinders, and they die pretty quickly. But yeah, rail rifles, you get that 6 to hit, you're going to kill it's just a flat 3 damage, and it's 3 shots. So if you get lucky every turn and get 1 6 to hit, it's just a 3 damage lethal hit. But you still have to guide, so that's why the Pathfinder still got that little bit of a struggle there. And then, you know, you're going to be moving them around because you're in Montca, and then it's the same problem with ion rifles because they both have the heavy and they both hit on 5s. And one thing I forgot to mention was the strike teams. They're just taking the Guardian drone, -1 to wound, basically. And, you know, it just makes it really annoying. You can't wound these guys better than a 3, basically. And, yeah, they're tough for what they are. And that's kind of what I was saying with breachers. I think looking at strike teams versus breachers right now, if you're trying to kill something, obviously breachers are better. But if you're just trying to do, like, objective control idiots, definitely breachers are way overcosted. And realistically their damage output isn't super amazing, but with the Devilfish you can kind of move around. The next thing I kind of disagreed with, but I after watching his video, or I guess a video or stream, is the 2 6-man stealth teams. The 2 6-man stealth teams are a really good finger on the pulse, like meta check, where it's like, okay, a lot of factions right now have decent Overwatch with flamers, and they're just going to Overwatch your stealth suits, and they don't get an Overwatch. Obviously, the flamers don't care. In general, on the board, the flamers don't care. So you want to get the 6-mans, and they're just durable enough that you don't care, because they're 12 wounds on a T4 body with a 3-up save with a -1 to hit. So they're hard to shift and cover. And then if you move, you get Overwatched by flamers. It's like, okay, well, if even one of my stealth suits survives, that's their purpose is solely to be an objective, like not objective, a marker light for the greater good spot. So they're just going to be there. Did he have? So he's got a marker drone on the guy, which you need. I'm pretty sure they get 2 drones, so maybe I'm wrong. You probably. And then I thought stealth suits get. I thought they could get a shield generator on the leader, on the Shazvray. Right? It's a Shazvray. No, it's a 5x1, and then the big guy. I'm pretty sure they can get the -1. Let's see. Oh no, they don't get the shield generator anymore. Could have sworn they had a shield generator. It's the battlesuit support system now. It looks like they condensed that. I always forget, because obviously the stealth suits are just there for the spotting. So think about it. He got the double broadside with heavy rails, twin smart missile systems. It's just how good and efficient Montka is right now, with specifically once you get past the single broadsides. Because I remember when he first made his first video about this list he was going to take, he made some minor changes. I think he had 2 6-man stealth suits and a 3-man stealth suit team. He had 3 broadsides, and he just condensed that down to 2 devilfish. He only had 1 devilfish, and there's a piranha in here somewhere. Yeah, right here. But yeah, he just the broadsides are just good anti-tank. You just throw them on the side of the board, and they get some good lines of sight, and they're just strong enough to just be annoying. And they do a lot of damage with their missile pods and the smart missile systems, because this is the one thing, if you look at it, everything that can take a smart missile system has it, because it's 40-something smart missile systems in this list, and they just shoot at the random chaff garbage that's just there. So Zangors, Sisters of Silence, Scouts, you name it, whatever chaff, Poxwalkers, they're just shooting them at them with indirect, because obviously when all that's gone, you can just kind of get pot shots, maybe plink off a wound every turn off of something big with your entire army with just through walls. But this is when you're fighting 30 Poxwalkers, which was part of the winning Death Guard list at Tacoma Open. 30 Poxwalkers are literally going to melt in the first 3 turns against this. And then you start looking at the double rail guns with a single ion cannon. That single ion cannon on the hammerhead is just, you need to have enough anti-elite, anti-Terminator equivalent. And even with the 2 Riptides with ion accelerators, just that extra little bit of ion cannon shots is just really good. Because it just keeps your opponent honest, especially with what you're trying to do. And then it's just because the whole point is you're just going to keep feeding your chaff to keep them away from your Riptides and Hammerheads. He had a piranha in every single game. He just scout moved it onto the center objective and just let it sit there, shot at secret missiles, and it's okay, you got to waste resources to take out my piranha now, otherwise I'm just going to keep holding this point. Yeah, looking at his write-up, the Devilfish, they just you have them, you can put strike tanks in them, or you can put the Pathfinders in them to scout them. Scout move, put your Pathfinders in the Devilfish, scout move them up the board, have the Pathfinders hop out, and then you can kind of have your Fire Warriors foot slog, and then just have them hop in it afterwards. And they will now your Fire Warriors have a bubble wrap, so they're little heart, basically just one of those Russian nesting eggs. When you blow up the Devilfish, you now have even more OC on the point than you had originally. I was watching through the games, and I thought this list was going to be garbage because of the strike teams, but strike teams are just, in my opinion, weak recruit. His reasoning for the strike team was that every single time you take Crute, you are not getting the same damage output in range damage output, because strike teams have 30-inch range or something like that, so it's pretty good shooting. You get at 15 inch, which is like most people's like 15 inch range is around like the knife fighting zone of 40k. That's once you're in that range, you're getting 20 shots out of each of these guys at strength 5. It's a lot of shooting that you can get, especially if you can get them guided with lethals now. They're okay, but I think Cruder is better because they have higher movement. They got the scout, and they have -1 to hit, right? Because like it's basically is -1 to hit better than -1 to wound. You know, the Fire Warriors have, I believe, a better. It's either, I think Cruder 6+ save and Fire Warriors are 4+. So it's like, okay, you got that 4+ save. So the t-shirt save versus like an actual like flag armor save is kind of important. But I like the Crute because the Crute can actually do what Fire Warriors can't, and that is they can charge like chaff. Like if you have 10 Poxwalkers and my 10 Crute charge you, you're not going to have many Poxwalkers left, and they'll actually do decently in melee. And then their Crute guns aren't terrible; they're just not strength 5. In the list, because the list was fine because I watched the whole video. I think most of his opponents outside of his very final opponent didn't know how to deal with the Talmont call list, which was one of the main things that I saw, was that all of his opponents were either like melee armies or like mid-board armies that didn't know, like, hey, just wait till turn 3. Once turn, like, you know, feed out a few units onto objectives and then use challenger cards to keep up, and then just stay away from his guys, because once they lose lethal hits, this army just falls on its face. Like the second you lose the guide lethal hits in against the Tau, especially in the Montcalm list, it just feels horrible, because now like your 40 strike teams goes from, hey, you might be able to get like 2 or 3 wounds from like each individual squad into like a T12 model every single round of shooting. Now you're getting almost none. Like you're getting absolutely 0, because you don't have the lethal hits. Because you're wounding on 6s instead of just garbage. So it's a struggle. Same thing with the rail rifles. I think what was it? Lethal hits doesn't combo with dev wounds, so you kind of lose that with the rail rifle. So it is what it is. But it's a decent list. I just think his opponents weren't really prepared for what was happening. Obviously, he when he's doing the video, he wasn't like talking exactly what was going on, like, oh, what was the challenger cards, how like each and every turn. But it was a good. I definitely recommend watching it, at least just watching certain clips, because some of you can skip through. So it was mostly, it was like a write up with like stream content. So it was always interesting to watch what he was talking about. I think this list though, like if you had this list and just told me to make it better, I'd switch it to Crude Hunting Pack and just remove the strike teams. Probably remove the stealth teams and turn them into like 2-3 bands, and then probably get rid of the broadsides. The Riptides are okay. The Devilfish, you don't need them, and just, you know, Gorillas, because this just feels like he's trying to, his objective was to flood the board while the vehicles do all the work. Crude Hunting Pack does that better, in my opinion, with Hammerheads. And like obviously you could probably, instead of 3 Hammerheads, 2 Riptides, that's fine in Crude Hunting Pack. Riptides do a lot better when they get support from the detachment, unlike Hammerheads. So you don't really necessarily need a lot of stuff here, but it's just there. But definitely, like Crude Hunting Pack, you just get as much crude as you can fit with the Rampagers and Crutox Riders, and I think you just have a better list. This is just a really hard, because it's effectively the same. What he was talking about was effectively the same thing in Tau, which is flood the board and hold off and just keep them, you know, screen them out. Well, when you're now, his goal was to bait the enemy into the open where you can shoot them. Well, a lot of his guys weren't taking the bait, and he can't breach their castle because he has no melee threat. Well, that's where the Crute come in, because okay, you want to stay stuffed in your deployment zone. My Crutox Riders are going to move behind cover, and then they're just going to move around it, and you're going to have a huge issue if they get into, like, if you have a 6-man squad of Crutox Rampagers in your enemy's deployment zone, you know, stuffing them, that's a problem. That's a problem for your opponent. because that can kill almost anything in the game, like one round of combat with a grenade stratagem going off. But yeah, I think he hasn't seen. I guarantee you, he just hasn't seen what Crew Talks Rampagers and Crew Hunting Pack are capable of, and then not to mention Crew Hunting Pack with just normal crew 20-man crew squads is just ridiculous. But yeah, this list worked well. One thing that the last guy he fought was a extremely skilled player, Aiden Solly from Vaguar Tactics. I think he's like the #1 Death Guard player in the UK. And if you look at his list, instead of the traditional Mortarian's Hammer, he's going the Death Lord's Chosen. And I think that kind of bit him in the butt against him. And I think he went first instead of second. Like if the Death Guard player went second, he would have completely stomped him. And I think at the end, I think Morty and Glory said that he messed up the count, so he actually won this game instead of a tie. So he did go undefeated. People were saying he only got a tie at the end. Yeah, I thought he was I still think he's got a little bit. He's almost there when it comes to like the Tau mindset of like the current building. But this is a perfectly fine list. He got lucky he didn't go up against Knights. Because I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm better than him or anything. This guy's probably beat me in every game of 40K if we ever played. I just think if you go up against Knights, like the Knights will just walk over your screens. Like they don't care. They just don't care. Like, oh, cool. I screwed you behind a wall. Okay, I have 20-inch movement with advance and charge because I'm down and I got that advance and charge on my Canis Rex Challenger card. And now he's in your deployment zone, tagging 4 of your vehicles, like, and he's gonna kill 2 of them. It's just one of those situations where you just can't screen them. And he got really lucky. Like if there was if Aiden Smalley had Mortarian's Hammer and he just kept hitting the hammerheads every single turn, and then he was able to like deep strike his and he was able to 6-inch deep strike his Death Shroud into the backfield and like turn 3 and just jump him, because like when he deep strikes because he went first, he'd have a round of lethal hits coming into him. But if he wiped out the hammerheads or like tagged the riptides and forced the riptides into falling back, because Moncada doesn't have it, so he wouldn't be able to shoot, so he had to shoot into his Death Shroud that are tagging everything. It's just not going to be a good time for him. Plus the shooting, like the Death Shroud shooting is nothing to scoff at, especially because they're just super flamers. And he did, and at the end of the day, he did amazingly. He got second place, but it says third. He basically got second place at a 50-man tournament. So yeah, I got some egg on my face, a little bit of drama because he's been trolling the Tau community, and kudos to him. Keep farming. I always like the little bit of the friendly jabs between each other. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, this is okay. I probably wouldn't take something like this. I'm a big proponent of the tanks and gorillas right now, and I think tanks and gorillas just would stomp this list, because it's just like, oh, okay, if this was like a mirror, like tanks versus gorillas versus this list, you're going to be pretty hard pressed to stop the Kroot from just rolling over. If it was just a full like Kroot hunting pack, nothing but Kroot list, you just flood over the strike teams and the Pathfinders, and now you've basically wiped out their entire screen turn 1, and you're in the midfield. It's like, okay, well, now the Riptides are going to target your guys. Let's go. If anything lives, you're just going to crush them. And not to mention the fire back from the Crew Talks Riders, which are like decent autocannons. Yeah. At the end of the day, congratulations, Morning Glory. You performed fantastically. Kudos to you, man. You completely proved everyone wrong, and all the people that are still whining about it can get stuffed. You're gonna go back to playing guard, and you're gonna go back to making insane lists that do well anyways. Yeah, so let's move on to the Tacoma Open. Oh, yep. I had the wrong thing here. So this is, I believe, 3rd place of the Tacoma Open. I'm calling him Jeff. Subterranean Assault. It's pretty standard, I think. Probably got the Death Leaper. He's just there to do things. Neuro Tyrant. He's gonna have Barb Gaunts right here. Where are they? Where are the Barb Gaunts? Where are they? I know they're here. There's got to be Barb Gaunts. You know what? No, I'm an idiot. He's leading the Zoanthropes. Right? I'm pretty sure. Oh no, Neurogons there. Barb Gaunts. I kept saying Barb Gaunts. I meant Neurothropes. Neurogons. So yeah, he goes into the Neurogants. He's just a dude. Tremor Sense just is what it is. Swarmlord, he's just there to be a dude. He's gonna. I'm pretty sure you can put him strategic reserve. From my reading of Subterranean Assault, let's double check. He can. You can just throw him in strategic reserve and then deep strike him. Basically, you just give him a pseudo deep strike. From what I'm reading from strategic reserve, I don't know if it's the exact reading. You know, I haven't actually checked because I have Tyranids. I just don't play them, and I haven't played this detachment. I just know that it exists. So yeah, you just throw a Trigon, throw them in, burrow them out, put the marker in, and from my understanding in the reinforcements, when you set up a model from reserves, I'm pretty sure that also means strategic reserves. So yeah, you can just you can give deep strike to your Swarmlord or any of the other models in your army that's in reserves. Biovore, you throw him on the board, throw him on the backfield. He's going to keep launching Spore Mines. I think this is the Hive Guard, 6-man Hive Guard, and that 6-man Neurothrope squad are actually really cool. I like the Hive Guard a lot because they have the anti-vehicle 2+ shot cannons. Yeah, they're 24 inches and you have to have line of sight. But like, oh yeah, your Canis Rex just charged in and killed, you know, my Tyrannifex that was out in the open, or my Trigon that was out in the open because he's Trigon Prime, and he's just got some extra stuff. Cool. Well, now you're gone. This is probably the best answer the Tyranids have to Knights, and I love it. It's like I didn't even know Hive Guard were only 180 points. I'm still like stuck in like 9th edition where like 3 Hive Guard or like 6-man Hive Guards could just wipe out your entire army because they just shoot through walls with the Impaler cannons, or I think they're called Impaler cannons. Lictor, Pheromone Trail, he's just a Lictor. Scout move forward, stuff like that. Norn Emissary, he's basically just, I'm pretty sure you can throw him in reserve and have him come out of a hole, which is going to be nuts. Raveners are really good right now. They're really fast, and they have uppy downy shenanigans. If you go like first, or like if you go second, and you start your Raveners on the board and you go second, you can actually be really annoying with these guys because you can just deep strike whenever the hell you want, right? You can put them anywhere on the board every single turn, and your opponent can't really interact with them. And then they can score, and then at the end, they do all that stuff. So there's some really fun stuff to be had. You can also have them pop out, I guess, of the holes, and I think they get benefits for that. Tyrannifex, he's just there. He's going to go on the board, and he's going to, same thing with the Zoanthropes. They're just going to keep enemy vehicles on us. Like, no one wants to get shot by a Rupture Cannon, you know? It's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna sit here and just take, I think, D6+6 shot, and then hope my invuln claps it. But yeah, this is a pretty cool. I love the name. You know, it's a play on the Not Some More, that song. You know, it's amazing. Yeah, he did a fantastic job. I would have. There's most likely a stream of his games, and I really want to. I'm probably gonna look to see if I can watch one of them because I see like. This, like Subterranean Assault and Reaper's Wager Drukhari right now are some of probably the coolest like technical lists that have coming out right now, because Subterranean Assault's obviously like bouncing all of their deep strike and stuff like that, and like as a Tau player, just seeing people just move that quickly, like it's so hard. Like, yeah, you can flood the board with Groot, and that's basically your only objective, because like, yeah, cool, your Hive Guard got 24-inch range. All of my stuff your Hive Guard want to target are in the backfield, and they're just waiting for you to pop out. And it's like, oh well, I have my Trigon that's just gonna deep strike right next to you, and everyone else is also gonna follow. You know, it's like, oh, you have my Swarmlords in your backfield. What are you gonna do about it? And you had no chance to shoot him, and then there's also a Trigon there. It's like, okay, yeah, it's definitely really interesting. He gets like the Death Leapers. The Death Leaper and the Lictor are just kind of infantry blenders that do some more stuff. Yeah, it's a really fun list. If I had to play against this, I'd probably, like, again, just create Hunting Pack, flood the board. There's like you like if you I think if you took Morty Glory's list, you'd probably do okay into this, because they only have they only have one like actual long range shooting, and everything else is just kind of utility to keep the Hive Guard alive and the Zoanthropes alive. Those guys just kind of sit there and they take stuff because they're just gonna be sniping out at you. I think it's like 24 and 36 inch. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't know what Tremor Senses do. What does Tremor Sense do? After close to deploy. Oh, Jesus, just a redeploy. You just have a redeploy. Jeez Louise, man, that's amazing. Yeah, this is a really because I know the Trigon Prime just makes him a super Trigon. Yeah, this is such a cool detachment. I cannot wait to have someone stomp me with it because it's gonna be really fun to play. And now this is Archon Skari, Redvin Martinez. This guy, his list is amazing. I saw this, like I love like watching him play Drukhari is just insane. So it's pretty simple. You got Reaper's Wager. It's basically oops all Drukhari and then a lone Solitaire. Who would have thought? Solitaire is just there to be an infantry blender. He's there to lose the wager the whole game, and then when he kills one thing, you know, like you kind of have him charge like some chaff unit, and now your entire army has extra benefit. I think it's reroll. You get actually reroll ones to wound as well for a while. Now you have the Archon, Arc Raider. He's just there. Arc Raider gives you scout move 9. Beastmasters are ridiculous. I had to double check what these things are. They're like 20 wound idiots, and they have multi models, and they're multi like wound models. So like if you shoot them with garbage, they're just gonna. It's not like as insane as like a Cursed Cultists, but it's there. And they're only 120 points, and they have decent move ranges, and then they do some like they just you throw them up on the board, and they're 120 points. They're ridiculously durable for what they cost. You got Drazar slam dunking him in Incubi squad. Lilith Hesprax, she's going inside of probably a 5 or a 10 lady witch squad. Urian Rakarth, you're throwing him in a rack squad, and here they are. Cabalite for 5-man Cabalite for your Archon. You got your racks, and you got the 10 witches. So you're probably starting Lilith on the board or with the witches, or you're throwing them in strategic reserve because you only got 3 venoms. The 3 venoms are going to be housing the probably Incubi. You're going to have Incubi with Drazar, Archon with Cabalites, Urian Rakarth, and they're just going to run around the board being nuisances. Kronos, he's going to be there. He's just going to sit there and shoot things. You know, it is what it is. He's a 50-point idiot that does a lot. Same thing with the Grotesque. The Grotesques are going to run up. They're going to kill things. They're going to mulch your infantry, and they're going to smash your vehicles. Probably not smash your vehicles, but they're going to wound them. Hellions, 150 points for 10 dudes. I think they're like, what, movement 14, 15? They're like insane levels of movement. They're like, and they just roll around. And yeah, they're not doing a ton of damage, but they're just like, oh yeah, I'm a dude. Your Incubi for Drazar, Mandrakes, I'm pretty sure they have Deep Strike. They're really good utility. Ravager for backline shooting. Scourges, drop down, Dark Lance, Haywire. You don't take all Haywires because there's a good chance you're going to be fighting something with monsters and not vehicles, so you need decent anti-tank that is not locked solely to the vehicle keyword, and that's where the Drukhari Haywire Blasters are. And you got the Flip Belt Solitaire. He just runs around killing things. It's a very fun list. I would love to see how it was played. I guarantee you Archon Skari most likely has a video talking about this list, and it's watching him play Drukhari makes me wish I played Drukhari at like a competitive level, because it's I would not want to play against it. Like if I saw Archon Skari drop this list in front of me as a Tau player, I'd like I don't even know what to do. And the best part is like the Drukhari community is so much more ingenuitive than any other faction, in my opinion, because they just find stupid stuff and it just works all the time. And it's like, oh, they rock their 40% win rate, and then Archon Skari comes out and it gets, you know, has a 70% win rate against all factions or something like that. It's like, dude's a monster. And because like my favorite one's like, what was it, the Void Raven Bombers? They're like, oh yeah, they're so good at Take Two. And that mindset from like Drukhari Void Raven Bombers are kind of seeping into Tau right now, because like the Razor Shark Strike Fighters are being looked at because, well, they're really fast. I'm pretty sure they have Marker Light, and they can now guide, and they're basically just a Pathfinder squad that can move infinite, and then they shoot things. But yeah, congratulations everyone to Tacoma Open. I didn't go over the winning list or any of the Imperial Knights lists because they are quite literally the same stuff. I have a Knights list that's just the same thing. So yeah, just 4 big knights and as many little knights as possible with whatever attachment they're taking. Death Guard's the same thing. Mortarian's Hammer, triple Death Shroud, is bloat drones and Feta bloat drones. Is it like Blight Haulers and Poxwalkers, characters, Death Shroud, and then Plague Burst Crawlers. So they're just there, and they're gonna be really hard to shift, and they're just kind of overcosted. I mean, undercosted. So we got a Hiya GT. This is one of the Chaos Knights lists I was going to look at. just kind of what I'm saying though, where just as many big knights as possible, and then some a little bit extra friends, and it just I think knights right now are just undercosted for what they do, and it just is what it is. I'm not trying to bash him for how good he did, because it's kind of a long GT. What was that, 6 games? Yeah, 6 games undefeated, and yeah, it's just one of those things with the current, because like now I think people are getting really used to knights. It's like, okay, yeah, the big knights are dangerous. You got the Cerastus, they're going to charge forward. Despoiler with the twin Gatling, they get lethal hits from Infernal Lance. If I remember correctly, you just gun them down. Then you got the Demon Breath thermal cannons with the Warp Strike on the Despoiler. So you have basically one pseudo anti-tank, and then you got some extra anti-tank, and then you got the War Dogs that just run around and be idiots with their strength. I think it's 12 Meltas, so they're nuts. Okay, so we're going to another one. This one's a little bit out of left field. It is Martin Cooper getting first place at the Winchester GT. I believe this is a 47? Yeah, 47 person tournament. He did pretty good. Yeah, it's a, what was it, 5-0 run here. And I was looking through this list a bit before I started recording. So yeah, it's a recon element. So as you can see, he's charged a light brigade. So I do believe he's just flooding the board. And this is kind of what I'm saying when it comes to the current meta, is that everyone's teching into knights and Death Guard, and Death Guard has enough anti-infantry to kill everything on the board. But knights, for the most part, like that's why you're seeing knights just take these Gatling cannons, because they just need more shooting to deal with these types of lists coming out of everybody else that can flood the board forward. So yeah, Katie Castellan, you're throwing, he doesn't take an enhancement because enhancements are kind of worthless. It's kind of like the Tau mindset, where it's like, oh yeah, do I want to spend 20 more points, or do I want to fit in more dudes? You throw him into your Cadian command squad. There's a Cadian squad for him to go into. They're going to sit in the backfield giving orders out. Gaunt's Ghosts, they're just a good unit. You throw them up on the board, and they have lone op, and they do everything you need them to do. Rogel Dorn tank commander, just a Rogel Dorn. He's got the oppressor and the pulverizer multi-melta. He's 265, so probably the best data sheet in the codex. Tech Seer, Tech Priest Engine Seer, you're going to have him sitting with the Rogel Dorn, and if he has any more tanks, he's going to be doing that. I believe it's 6. No, it's 3 Catachan Jungle Fighters. There's no Chimeras in this list, if I remember correctly. They're just going to be, I think, Scout 6 or 7, and they're going to start on the line, and they're going to push forward to block all of your forward operations on the opponent. And they got Flamers. I thought he has a Vox Caster too in them, because you want them to be able to get ordered by the Cadian Castellan, who is in the back, because I'm pretty sure the Castellans get 2 orders. And then is it a command squad as well? Yeah, you're putting the Castellan and the command squad in the Cadians together, because they can fit, and each of them can order, so you get like 3 orders, if I'm not mistaken. That's why you have the Vox. So you order the jungle fighters to move like turn 1 or something. I think there's 4. It's 4 jungle fighters. Sorry, it's just there's so many. Then you got the first wave, jungle fire. Second wave is going to be the Death Corps, right? They're there to just soak up as much damage as possible. And then you have the flankers with the Death Riders. Recon element gives super cover. So just having these guys, they're 60 points. They're not amazing. Are they all lances, right? Because you don't need the las gun on these guys. The las gun sets, yeah. Frag lance. So the frag lance, I'm pretty sure strength 3 blast. Is it blast on melee? Oh gosh, I want to say it's a blast, and he also has like a 6-inch ranged attack, but that might have been last edition, or I'm just horribly wrong. Nope, blast carbines. Yep, just D6 lance. It's just strength 4, weapon skill 3. You get min 5 to a maximum of 30 there, and you get the power sabers, or the you get so yeah, they're just okay. You hit them with the frag lance on the charge, and then you swap over to the sabers, and just keep rolling through. Yeah, it's oh gosh, get off. Sorry about that. My cat was nudging my mouse, and it shut off, and now it's shut back on. Casterkin, these guys are your pseudo damage dealers for the infantry side. Melt-a-gun, plasma guns, hot shot. Just, I'm pretty sure they're starting on the board, because then you get their scout move. I could be wrong. You might be strategic reserving them if you wanted just a little bit extra fluff. But yeah, these guys exist. They're gonna drop on the board. They're gonna get take aim, and they're gonna shoot things. And then probably the backbone of the list with the Rogel Dorn is going to be the 3 Leman Russ, 2 Vanquishers, and a battle cannon. I think the battle cannon is there because you need oh, you even have las cannons, plasma cannon. Oof. Huh. What? I don't know if this is a typo, or like he misclicked, or he actually has the plasma cannons on this guy. He probably actually has the plasma cannons. The multi-meltas are obviously the better choice because it's 24-inch, but you have the Vanquishers and you want to keep them in the backfield. So the plasma cannons would work better if you're trying to just have extra shooting, and then you just order this guy. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, the Leman Russ battle tank, he's just there because the battle cannon is a good anti Terminator equivalent. You're going to need that battle cannon to shoot into Death Shroud, because if you shoot a Vanquisher into Death Shroud, it's not going to do anything. But if you shoot the battle cannon, it's the same understanding of you need more ions and Tau lists. So it's always interesting seeing that like these types of like almost motifs are spread around through like multiple codexes. Like, oh well, like I have my Hammerhead with the railgun, or my Leman Russ with the Vanquisher, but like the heavy anti-tank shot's gonna struggle into actually like durable multi-model units. So I need to have something that's going to be a little less anti-tank, but it's really good in these durable multi-model units. That's where you get the Leman Russ, and that's why you're also getting the Casterkin, because the Casterkin is going to crack a Terminator squad in like 2-3 rounds, in like 2 rounds of shooting, just through the plasma guns alone, and then they get too close, you just hit them with the melta gun. The Catachan is just here. They're going to be thrown on the board to be sacrifices, 1 and 2 until they're gone. Then you throw in the Death Core, and then you throw in the Death Riders are charging alongside them. They're just there to muck up the board, as similar to Morty and Glory's list. Yeah, they who would have thought that when you make a guard style Tau list, that guard list would pretty much do the same thing. But yeah, this is a little bit of a slower weekend outside of Tacoma Open, similar like last week where they had that really big team tournament. Yeah, probably the most interesting lists obviously was the Morty and Glory list, in my opinion, because he just completely just shoved me in a locker with my critiques. It's like, yeah, shove it, man. I still think the list isn't as good as it could be, but he proved me wrong that even if it's not perfect, it could still win. So I always like seeing these kind of like smaller changes, like the 6-man stealth teams. I was kind of on the fence about, but after seeing somebody do well with them, I think I'm gonna practice with them more, because they're definitely just one of those things where you're just gonna kind of roll, because you get 2 fusion blasters, and it's effectively I'm only taking 2 3-man stealth teams, and if I want a third one, it's the same price as taking 2 6-man. So like, why would I want to do that? But yeah, only thing that gets me is the strike teams. You could probably drop all the strike teams and the 2 devilfish, right, and then just swap them out for like Kroot, and then probably cut down the stealth teams down to 3-man, switch over to Kroot hunting pack, and just fit as much Kroot as you can with that, and you're probably gonna do a lot better. But that's just me. Yeah, thank you all very much for watching. Outside a little bit of the drama mamas, because it's always fun when stuff like that happens. But yeah, outside of that, the week did pretty well. Congratulations to everyone that did well in the tournaments. Obviously, Steve Trimble, although I'm not looking at your list, it's like these 2 guys right here, Steve Trimble and Ben Jurek. Congratulations, you guys did fantastic. Jeff and Ridvan Martinez, so it's Archon Scary, fantastic. Sorry for anyone that didn't, but yeah, Steve Trimble, congratulations. You topped the Tacoma Open 255 player tournament. You most likely have a golden ticket from that. He probably has multiple golden tickets already. So guys collecting like Infinity Stones. But yeah, congratulations, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. If you like the content, hit the like button. And if you want to see more of my content, I tend to have at least 1 Warhammer video out every week, mainly just going over tournament results. Yeah, if you want to see more of that, just hit the subscribe button. And if I missed something, if you have anything you want to say about the current meta, or if you have something like list building or anything, leave in the comment section. I'm always happy to help. I may not be like a hyper competitive player, but I can kind of look at their lists, because it's a very interesting thing about 40K is that a lot of the game is on the tabletop, but even more of it is in the list building. and you can kind of just look at lists and see how they play. Yeah, as always, thank you all very much for watching. Have a great day.